Hey guys, Ms. Hallman here. I am going to teach you a lesson about profit. So when we're talking about profit, it's really common for a lot of people to have the misconception that I'm selling something, so if I sell something for $50, $50 is my profit. Today I want to teach you that when you're calculating profit, you have to take in mind the expenses that you spent and subtract that out. So Miss Hallman and Miss Thomas are running a business. They buy wood planks for $10.95, nails for $3.45, and paint for $8.98. They sell their doghouse for $32. What is their profit? So again, profit is income minus expenses. So I did a visualization for you here of the doghouse and the supplies. So the paint is $8.98. The wood is $10.95, and the nails were $3.45. We sold the doghouse for $32. Okay, so I didn't make $32. I have to take what I made and subtract out the cost of my expenses. Once I break even, make back all of the money I've spent, that's break even. Anything above and beyond that is my profit. So I'm going to use a T-chart to help me organize. This is the expectation when you're doing a profit problem to help you organize your work. So I'm going to total up all of my incomes and all of my expenses. We've made the problems really simple for this so that there's only one income, but you might have several. I could sell 2 dog houses for $32. I could sell a dog house for $32 and a dog toy for $5. So just keep in mind that these problems are very simple. All right, my income was $32 from the dog house, and I had a couple of expenses. I had the wood for $10.95. I had the paint for $8.98, and the nails for $3.45. Notice how I kept everything lined up by the decimal point. That's important. Again, remember when we're adding and subtracting decimals, you have to line them up by place values. Tenths, hundredths, ones, tenths. You have to keep them all lined up by their place values. Otherwise, you're going to get a funky oddball amount. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of these up. You can subtract them from 32, like $10.95, subtract from 32. You can do that each one if that makes you more comfortable. I prefer to do it all in 2 steps, so I prefer to add all of the expenses and then just subtract them, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So, just going to add. And I'm going to bring these down. And I'm just going to write them out for organization. So the formula for profit is income minus expenses equals profit. So you can see right here using the T-chart, it automatically does that for me. However, I know that I can't subtract decimals horizontally like I have them here. My place values get all messed up and I can see that I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm just going to rewrite it over here. No problemo. Again, be really mindful that your decimals line up so that you don't mess it up by place value. So, after buying all of my materials and selling the doghouse, I only made a profit of $8.62 because that's the money that I made above and beyond the cost of all of these supplies. Keep that in mind when we're talking about profit. This is especially important if you want to run your own business or even have a lemonade stand on the corner of your street. Let's do one more. Notice that this problem doesn't have the visual cues. If that's a problem for you, we can go through and draw them. Betty is selling cake mixes for a school fundraiser. She sells all her cake mixes for $54.60. She bought yellow cake mix for $13.52, funfetti cake mix for $26.49, and chocolate cake mix for $8.98. What profit did she make for the fundraiser? So again, we know that profit is income minus expense. And again, keep in mind that these are really simple problems that we're giving you. So again, visual cues. If you need them, make them. Yellow cake. Oops, I messed that number up. I looked ahead too quickly. This is $13.52. Funfetti cake. $26.49. And chocolate cake. Okay, you can organize your information however you want, and then you can say the money that she got, $54.60, is what she made or got from the sale for all these cake mixes. However you want to represent it. So again, I'm going to make my T-chart. I'm going to abbreviate income and expenses. And you can even go back into the problem because you should be analyzing every problem and going, okay, it says that she sells. That's always going to indicate my income. If she's buying, that's an expense. So I can go through the problem and label everything and then just add them in my T-chart and go from there. So my income for this problem, I only have one because we're keeping it simple, is $54.60. For my expenses, I've got $13.52 for yellow, $26.49 for funfetti, and $8.98 for chocolate. All right, again, I'm going to total them and then subtract from there. Don't forget your decimal point. It does affect place value. All right, $48.99. I'm going to bring this down and write out my equation. Perfect. And then I'm just going to translate it over here and go ahead and subtract. So again, this is the money that she got from the sale for selling all of her product. I'm going to be subtracting her total expenses. That's everything that she had to buy in order to make her product. And don't forget that decimal down there. I keep almost trying it, but it's a bad habit I got. All right, $5.61. So after the entire bake sale, Betty only made $5.61 because she had to pay herself back for all of the cake mixes. So this brings up a good point. One of my favorite shows is Shark Tank, where the people go in and they talk about what's your profit, how much does it cost you to make the product, and what do you sell your product for? Those are usually the top questions. Well, why are those the top questions and why are they important to business? I'm going to nerd out a little bit for you. Let's say Betty sold each cake mix for $1. If she bought the cake mix for $1 and she sold it for $1, she doesn't make any profit. If she buys a cake mix for $1 and she sells the cake mix for $10, she's made a profit of $9. She pays herself back the $1. She gets the $9 on top of that. That's her profit. That's called a profit margin. The bigger the margin, the more money you're actually making. You want your cost to make the good as low as possible, and you want to drive up your profit. So you might charge more for something that is cheap to make. This happens with a lot of clothing. Clothing is really cheap to make, especially if it's made in an unethical way. And so you might buy a shirt for $25 when it only took them maybe 5 cents to create that. The same thing goes for really large brand names. Gucci, Prada, all the brand names that you know and love, same thing happens. They're made really, really cheaply, but the owner, because it has a designer label and they've built up that brand, they can sell it for thousands for a handkerchief. So it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're trying to run a business. Keep in mind profit margins, but also supply and demand. The people are not going to want to buy something for $50, like a cake mix for $50 when you bought it for $1 and they can buy it for $5 at a different store. So it's a lot of business. It's something that's really interesting, especially if you want a career in finance, accounting, or as a businessman or woman. So just keep that in mind. It's something interesting. This is a great life skill to have, whether you're going to balance your own checkbook or a checkbook of a business that you might own. So that's my lesson on profit.